e-commerce app. In this video, we are going to set up our basic project directory for the whole application. In this video, we are going to see that how you can set up a basic MVC architecture based application. We are also going to see about the fact that what are the different packages that you need to install in order to make sure that your Express application works like a charm. So without any further delay, let's just start. So first of all, what you have to do is you need to go to any directory where you want to build the whole application. So in my case, I'm going to the developer directory. Here I can make a new directory. I would say e-commerce app. So using mkdir e-commerce app in Linux and Mac OS systems, you can make a new directory, right? So you can check the commands for your corresponding operating system if this doesn't work for you. Okay. Now what you can do is you can enter in the e-commerce app, and then what you have to do, you need to initialize a new npm project. Npm is the node package manager. If you will initialize an npm I would say project, then a lot of things regarding the basic project setup will be done by npm. So we'll say npm init. This is going to initialize a new npm project. It is going to ask us a few questions that the package name should be this. I'll say okay. So you can just press enter if you want to go with this. Version should be 1. The description I can say is the intro to e-commerce app. Entry point is index.js. We'll keep it for the time being as it is. We don't need a test command for the time being. Git repository we don't need to have, and rest of the fields I'll keep empty as well. It will be asking you, is this okay? You can just press and enter to say a yes. And now if you will see, then you have a package.json file with you. Here you can see you have a package.json file. So what you can do, you can open a new text editor. You can use Sublime Text, VS Code, or anything else if you want. And what you can do is you can go to open. You can navigate towards your directory. So it's developer e-commerce app. Open. So in the package.json, you can see some basic information is there. Whenever we will be installing a package, this package.json is going to get updated. Okay. Now the first thing that we need to do is we need to set up Express for our application. So in order to Express, what you can do is you can open the Express documentation. So one second, you can say Express Node.js. You will get the official documentation. You can just go to the official documentation, go to the getting started. First of all, it will be giving you some installing instructions. Here you can see we have already done npm init, and then it says npm install express. We'll just do that. So we can do npm install express. So what this command is going to do, this command is going to install Express package and all the corresponding dependencies in our application. So if you will see, now we have a package log.json. This is going to mainly set up all the versions of all the dependencies as well as Express. And then you have this node module folder, which is going to have a lot of folders. These are all the dependencies of Express. But by this we can say that the Express package has been set up correctly. Okay. So what you can do is you can just make a new file here. So here you can make a new file, and let's say the file name is app.js, or let's say index.js. Okay. Inside index.js, we'll write our basic boilerplate in order to set up the server. So what we can do is const express is equals to require express. Right. What this line is going to do? This line is going to require the Express package. If you have any doubt, you can just go to the Hello World guide, and here you will get some basic boilerplate to set up Express. And as you can see, the next step is to set up the application from the Express object. So we'll say const app is equals to express, right? And then what we are going to do, we are going to set up the port on which we are going to run our server. So const port is equals to 3000. And then what we are going to do, we can use app.listen. What is this listen function? This listen function will start your server, and your server will start listening to the request on port number 3000. So you first of all you can pass the port number. So let's say we'll say port and then you need to pass a callback. This callback will be executed when your server successfully starts listening. So we can say console.log server started successfully. Okay, so this will set up the server successfully, and here you can see you have this, right? We will write this request after some time, but let's see if the basic thing works. So we'll do node index.js, and here you can see the server has been started successfully. So this much part of the code is working perfectly fine, right? Okay, now we need to add some more dependencies for our application to work, right? So let me walk you through to all the dependencies. So we'll install Jest, the testing framework, and we'll also install body parser for actually parsing the API requests and everything. So what we'll do npm install Jest. This is going to install the Jest library, right? If you want to see the actual command, you can also go to Jest npm. You will get the same command on Jest npm as well. You can see npm install Jest, right? So it's still installing Jest. Let's just wait for it. Okay, Jest has been successfully installed. Now we need to install body parser. You can here only search body parser. So this body parser package is required for us to actually make sure that whenever we are making an API request, then we are able to parse the body that is passed with the API, right? So npm install body parser. Body parser has been installed successfully, and we also, yeah, I guess this much should be sufficient. So what we can do is we can do const body parser is equals to require body parser. So using this statement, we'll be able to initialize the overall body parser into our application. This will be accessible everywhere, right? Okay, this should be good. And what we need to do is we need to set up a middleware. So we'll do app.use. Using app.use, what you'll be able to do, you'll be able to set up a middleware for all the incoming requests that are going to come to your application, right? We'll say body parser dot URL encoded. So you can get the same command from the documentation as well, I guess. So let's search for URL encoded. You can see we have to do URL encoded here. So the same thing we can do, app.use body parser URL encoded. All these things are available in the documentation. At least for the basic setup, it's like quite very easy, to be very honest. And now what we can do, we can set up our basic request. So app.use, let's say /, and this should be app.get, because this request is a get request. And then we are going to pass the callback function request comma response. So you guys already know that in an Express application, whenever we set up the overall route, then for each route we are going to have a request object that is going to contain everything that is coming within the request, and a response object that is going to consider everything that we are going to send in the response, right? And then what we can do is rest.send, let's say hello world. Okay, so what we can do is we can use Postman, or before Postman, what you can do is you can just start the server. So node index.js, the server has been started, and if you'll just go to localhost 3000 and the route was /, here you can see hello world is there. So this server is working fine. The server is serving the request very easily, right? Okay, now we need to set up a basic directory structure. This directory structure is going to help us to set up the MVC architecture, and then we are also going to set up our database that is going to be used for the later purpose. So first of all, what we need to do is we need to set up a source folder. Okay, inside the source folder, what we can do is we can set up few more folders. So new folder, let's say controllers. These are going to set up all the store all the controllers. We can have models, then we can have services, and then we can have tests. So in the controllers, all the incoming requests are going to be first interacting with the controllers. The models are going to have the business logic. The services folder is going to have everything extra, like any library code that we are going to set up, any database connection code that we are going to set up, everything will be in the services. And the tests folder is going to have all the unit tests that we are going to write. Okay. Apart from that, we are going to make another folder, not inside this, but actually outside. So we are going to make a folder routes. Inside the routes folder, so like you already know most probably that we will be implementing an API, right? All the implementations that we are going to do, it will be in the form of an API. So the API will be having a lot of versions. So first of all, we will make a folder API so that it stores the routes for all the APIs. Then inside API, we are going to store a folder V1. This is going to have all the V1 version of the APIs, right? So this is the basic directory structure that we are going to have. Apart from that, let's just do one more thing. Let's just make a new file, .git ignore. Why .git ignore? Because this file is going to help us to push the whole folder on the GitHub without including the node modules folder, right? So what you can do is just open the git ignore file and just write node modules. And by just writing node modules here, this node modules will be neglected from every git commit, right? So this part of the code is ready, where we have set up the basic application, and along with that we have all the routes ready with us. Now what we have to do is we have to set up the database connection so that we can also interact with the MySQL server. And now what you have to do is you can come to the source folder and you can make a new folder named constants. What this constants folder is going to store is, it's going to store all the major constants that are not going to be repeatedly used in our application. Like we have to use it repeatedly, but we don't have to like write it again and again. We can store it somewhere and just directly fetch it from here. So we can say a new file, backend config.js, right? Okay. And then what you can do is module.exports. We can export a complete object. Inside this object, I'll make a new entry of MySQL, and inside MySQL, I'll set up a prod configuration. Inside this prod configuration, we need to have 3-4 major fields, right? The first field, I'm like going to copy paste it from here. So this is going to be our host. We can directly paste it like this. So on this host, on this Amazon database, we have already set up the whole MySQL database with all the tables and everything, right? I'll show you that as well. Apart from that, we need a user. So the user is going to be relevel. We need to have a password. So every time we need to access it with a password, right? So e-commerce #2021 is the password. And the database that you want to access, actually, it is going to be e-commerce DB, right? So this is going to be the configuration that we can use in order to set up our SQL connection. Like I would say, a humble request to all of you, please don't try, like I'll show you how you can go to the prod database and everything, but I would highly recommend you guys to not hamper the prod database, because it can create problem for others as well, right? So what you can do is you can now make a new file, services, new file, and you can set up a SQL connection.js, right? So this file SQL connection.js is going to be there. And now what you have to do is const MySQL. We have already installed the MySQL package. I hope you guys remember, right? And you can say MySQL 2, right? And apart from that, what we are going to take, some configs. So const config is equals to, now we are going to set up our config. So from the constants folder, we are going to take backend config. So this is going to give us the all config. And then what we are going to do, we are going to have var pool. So this pool is going to give us all the required configurations that we need for setting up the connection in, with the prod. So we'll say config.mysql.prod. So this is going to give us that. And what we can do is we can make the new MySQL dot create pool. Using this create pool and these configuration, we will be able to create a whole pool that is going to actually connect with the database. So what is this pool? So this pool is going to get all the configuration. This pool object is going to take all the configuration that is required to connect to the database, and using this configuration, it is going to help us to connect to the database, to query to the database. Now what you have to do is you can write a function execute query. Right, this function is going to take the SQL, the data, and a callback. Right, and at last what we can do is module.exports execute query, because this execute query function is going to be used by our models and everything for actually executing the SQL query. Right, so this SQL is going to be a string that is going to store the SQL. The data is going to be the data that is going to be passed to the SQL query, and the callback is going to check what we have got from the connection. So we'll say pool dot get connection. We'll try to set up a connection, and it will give us a callback error comma connection object. If we are not able to successfully set up the connection, then what we can do, we can send this error back from the callback. Else, if the connection is successfully set up, we'll say connection dot query will start querying from the connection. It will get the SQL, it will get the data, and we will give another function err1 and a result. So this is again a callback function. This callback function is going to be executed when the query has been successfully executed. Okay. If there was some error while executing the query, we'll say callback on the error1. Else, what we are going to do, we'll say connection.release. We'll close the connection, and at last we are going to say callback error1 comma result. Right, because now we know that the error is not there. In the result object, we are going to get the whole result that we have got from the corresponding connection. Okay. Now apart from this, what you have to do in order to actually visualize the database and everything, you can install MySQL Workbench. Right. So let me show you MySQL Workbench. Right, this is going to be kind of a UI interface that is going to help you in order to actually connect to the production database. So you can download it from here for whatever operating system you are having. So I have already downloaded it. Let me show you how it looks like. So this is the interface of MySQL Workbench. Right, what you can do, you can go to database, you can go to connect to database, then you will get this prompt. Now from your backend config, you can copy this host. You can just copy this host and replace it with this host, and then you can copy this user, replace it with this user, and inside the password it will ask you for adding the password, so you can add this password. Okay, and if you will press OK here, it will start connecting to the server, and here you can see we have connected to the production Amazon server where the whole database is already available for you. That is a MySQL database. If you'll go to schemas, then here you can see you are able to see the database e-commerce DB. Here you can see there are all the tables, categories, order details, order items, products, right, shop, user details, users, vendor details. All of these tables are already available for you. If you want to set up all of these tables on your local MySQL as well, that we have already seen, like that you might be having already installed, right, then what you can do is you can go to the server, and from here you can do data export. You can select the database that you want to export. Right, all the tables are selected, and all you have to do is just do start export. Right, this will export all the, I would say, tables for you that you can use in order to actually set up the database on your local system as well. And then all you have to do is just change this configuration, or maybe add a new configuration. So here you can add a new configuration of local as well. So you can add a local object. Here the host will be 127.0.0.1, user will be your username for the MySQL, password will be your MySQL password, and database will be whatever database name you have mentioned there. If you want to see where the dump file goes, so in my Mac, let me show you. So inside the Mac OS, it goes in the dumps folder, and you can see this is the dump one, and you can see all the dumps are here. So what you can do, if you want to like open it with any code editor, right, here you can see this is the whole dump. Here you can see the whole table creation, what are the corresponding fields, which is a primary key, what are the defaults, everything is present. So you can use this command in order to set up the basics for you, and you will be also getting some seed values. Here you can see there are some seed values also available because we have got this from the whole dump. You can just execute this whole SQL as it is in your local SQL, and then the whole database will be set up for you as well, right? So what we can do is let's try to run the server once. Okay, everything is working fine, and I believe this should be good to go, right? Apart from that, I would highly recommend you guys to download Postman, or you can download Insomnia. These two are going to be very useful for letting us hit the APIs without having an actual front end. All the things that we are going to do is with respect to APIs only. We have to write the APIs and then expose them. Using those exposed API, we can have this Postman with us, where we will be adding the whole routes, all the objects, and then we'll be sending the data and we'll be getting the response, the same response that the front end will also be consuming. We won't be writing any front end because this is a complete backend implementation of all the APIs. So I would highly recommend you guys to go forward with Postman or Insomnia. Otherwise, you can use your basic terminals curl command as well in order to set up things and in order to call the APIs, right? So I hope this whole tutorial was very useful for you. We have set up our basic, I would say, structure of the MVC architecture. We have set up our controllers, models. Like, we have not set up new files, but we have the folder directory with us. We have the routes directory with us. We have set up the basic database connection. We are able to use MySQL Workbench as well, right? We have set up the whole prod configuration for the SQL connection and basic routes, and this basic server is already up. Now in the upcoming subsequent lectures, we are going to start writing the actual features of the application. We are going to have a lot of features, a lot of CRUD that we are going to write. We are going to expose the APIs, and a lot of them is coming very soon directly here. So that being said, we will meet in the next video. Till then, take care guys, bye bye, and thank you.
और फोन करी वह सब बारे मोके कही मोय नहीं पार मुरे बहिन मोर जब पैसा ना थे कहूं नहीं जुरा बड़ी तो कोई चले पावे नहीं हां मोर जगह कहां पावे पैसा कोनो लखे जी अथो कहूं और ओहे सब कल त नंबरे माई मैं जाना था जाने तो तो गई रहे भी तो बगने पैसा के भले कहते खन चार्ज ना खे मोबाइल पानी हो घड़ी आथे से मैं बाद में करबू गई कहना बड़ी चाल हाँ टाइम मिली तो करबे कर लो से कान कहूं मोय आपने पैसा खोजे तो पैसा नहीं बताते दे रहा जो पैसे में कहूं मुझे तो नौकरी जा रही इच्छा कैसे लगा थी आदमी के बेवकूफ बने के जोड़बे त अपने मन निकल जाबे ये आदमी पीछे जाबे जात जोड़े पारबे तब नहीं दूध पढ़ती जा पैसा देवा